Welcome back to my darkroom. Today we're going to mix things up a little bit.
Welcome to the Naked Photographer, where I'll be exposing myself. No, I won't. That sounded better in my head.
Anytime you're going to develop film or make prints, you're going to need to mix up your chemicals. Now you may choose to do them from a stock solution, like this where it's already a liquid but you need to add water. It could be from a powder such as this where you'll need to mix it up and dissolve it completely. Or you may actually choose to make your own developer or fixer or whatever from raw chemicals where you'll need to weigh them out and then mix them. So we're going to look at each three of these different ways so that you can be prepared for when you print or develop next. When you're mixing from a liquid concentrate, typically you'll see two methods of referring to the concentration that you'll need to use. For example, Kodak will typically say something such as 1:1, so like 1, a colon, and a 1. It's written as a ratio of the stock to the amount of water. So if it's a 1:1, it would be 1 part stock solution to 1 part water. Take for example Dectol Developer. It typically is mixed 1:2. So it would be 1 part stock solution to 2 parts water to make the working solution. Ilford, on the other hand, will mark it as 1 plus a number. So Fixer, I believe, is 1 plus 9. That brings total volume to 10 parts. So if you were going to mix 1 liter, it would be 1 part liquid concentrate plus 9 parts water. So if you were mixing a full liter, it'd be 100 milliliters of concentrate and then 900 milliliters of water to make a 1 liter total volume. So they're written two different ways. They mean the same thing. So just make sure you're understanding the nomenclature properly. Concentrates such as this usually have it marked on the bottle somewhere. So this being Kodak indicator stop bath tells me that I'm going to add 16 milliliters per liter of water, or 2 ounces per gallon. So if I were going to make 1 liter, then I'm going to measure up 16 milliliters of this. So get a small graduate such as this, and you're going to pour in up to the 16 milliliter line. Then you want to fill this to the 1 liter line, and I'm going to pour this in as it goes. And then add some water to this just to rinse out all the concentrate. And then top up to 1 liter. Stir completely. Make sure it's thoroughly mixed. And now I have 1 full liter of a working solution. Now a solution such as PhotoFlow will usually tell you right in the name itself, PhotoFlow 200. That means I'm going to add 1 part of PhotoFlow solution to 200 parts water. So very, very weak solution. But because that's a foaming agent, you really don't want anything stronger than that, or you'll end up just getting a scum form on your film. So let's look now at mixing a powder. When you mix powder chemicals such as this, you want to be sure that you're mixing the appropriate amount. This makes 1 gallon or 4 liters of a stock solution. Powders such as this look like the entire package contents are homogeneous. However, unfortunately for us working in the darkroom, most photographic chemicals look like white powder, even though they're very different ingredients. So this may actually be multiple ingredients, and I would not be able to divide this up evenly to make a smaller package size. So you are going to need to mix the entire 1 gallon at one time. If you can't use it all within a reasonable amount of time, you'll need to package it into smaller bottles, such as these little 1 pint bottles, to get as much air out of it as possible so it doesn't oxidize, particularly if it's a developer. Now this is hypoclearing agent. It's not really going to be bothered by air. You're also going to want to make sure that you've got a large enough container for this. This is a 5-liter mixing container. I know it doesn't look that big on camera, but it is actually quite large. So 5 liters is actually 1¼ gallons. So make sure you have a large container and that you are ready to mix this entire thing up. And I will be putting this into a 1 gallon glass bottle in order to keep as much air out of it as possible. Additionally, you're going to need a stir stick, and then pay attention to the temperature of the water that it recommends you use it at. For this, it says 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius, so I've already adjusted my mixing valve to adjust for that, and then follow the directions. While this makes a total of 1 gallon, it says start with 3 liters, 3 quarts of water. And because this is a powder and I'm in a small darkroom, I'm going to both put on some gloves and, sorry for the noise, but I'm going to turn on my exhaust fan. To give you an idea of how much this is pulling, here's a piece of paper. So it's going to suck a lot of air out and pull any additional dust outward where it vents outside. So cut the end off, and you want to stir as you pour it in. You don't need to stir super vigorous. Oh, that didn't even work. Oh, there we go. Oh, and there's the dust. So stir as you pour it. And you're going to stir continuously until it's fully dissolved. Now at first it turns quite cloudy. As it dissolves, it will clear up. So it's only been about 3 or 4 minutes and it's already nearly completely dissolved. I can see a little bit of powder swirling around in there. You notice I've already turned the vent off. All the powder is dissipated. So we're clear there. And that actually looks pretty good. I feel like we are completely dissolved there. If I did not get this up to temperature that it recommends, it takes a lot longer to dissolve. So really make sure you're paying attention to that. Alright, now that I've dissolved that, I need to add enough water to make 1 gallon or 3.8 liters total for stock. If I were going to put this, say, in a school condition, I would probably go ahead and add all the water to make the 5 gallons that can then just be recycled and used over and over until there's no longer any good. But since this is not a school setting, I want to make just the stock solution, and then I'll eke it out as I need to. So let's get the water and add it. I want to add it slowly and watching my line. Make sure I get up to my 3.8 liter mark. I don't want to go past that. Now I'm going to stir this thoroughly. I'm not worried about stirring too vigorously because it's hypoclearing agent, but if this were a developer, stirring too vigorously will add oxygen into the mix, which can preemptively oxidize your developer and make it its useful life not nearly as long. So try to keep the stirring down to a minimum, or at least not vigorous. I am fine as it is right now. Alright, so it is thoroughly combined. A little funnel. Now ready to add it into my bottle. All right. So this is a 1 gallon container. It says it's full. Still have a little bit in there. About 300 milliliters. So I'm actually going to add that to a small bottle here and just have a little bit of extra. I have a feeling that 1 gallon bottle, not all that much of 1 gallon. But that's alright. It's not quite 500 either. It's about 300 milliliters extra. Okay, now what I would do is label these two bottles because they're clear and they look just like my D76 film developer. I'm going to label both of these with hypoclear or as hypoclear and the date mixed so that I know how old it is. So let's go put this aside. When using bulk chemicals, get a scale that can read in 0.1 gram increments. I'm using coffee filters to actually hold the chemicals. Just shake the powder out of the bottle slowly so you don't kick up too much dust. I am currently using my exhaust fan. I also have a respirator on so that any flying particles aren't breathed into my lungs. This particular mix is PMK Pyro Part A, so I am mixing up metol, so I need 5 grams. Now that's measured, put that aside. This chemical is sodium bisulfite. It caked up from humidity, so I'm using a mortar and pestle to break it up. Now with a fresh filter, I'm going to measure out 10 grams. So place the filter on the scale, tare the weight to zero it out, and now I'm going to slowly dish out the sodium bisulfite that I just crushed up into a finer powder. Anything that's left over that I may have crushed will go back into the original container. And I'm going to set that aside, and now I'm just evening out the pyrogalol, which was also caked up from humidity. So a third fresh filter, put it on the scale, zero out the weight, and now I'm going to measure out 50 grams of pyrogalol. With a mortar and pestle, you do not want a wood or ceramic mortar and pestle that you would use for food. I use a stainless steel because it's non-absorbent. You can also use a porcelain. Just don't use it for any kind of cooking. Now that everything's measured out, I've got clean water. Pour in the first ingredient. You always want to go in order of the recipe. So here I'm pouring in the metol and stir until it's completely dissolved. Then I'm going to add the sodium metabisulfite as soon as that is completely dissolved, and I'm going to stir the bisulfite until it is fully dissolved. You'll notice that the color just completely changed when that went in. That is completely normal. You'll see that with several different recipes. It's just chemical reactions at work. Now I'm going to add the pyrogalol. When you put in a large quantity like this, no matter how much you stir, sometimes it'll clump up from the liquid. Just use the flat edge of the stir paddle to break it up. It's an easy way to go. And then I'll stir that until it's completely dissolved. And now I'll top off to 500 milliliters of water. Final stirring just to completely mix, and it's time to put it into bottles. So I'm going to pour this, trying to minimize the amount of liquid that or oxygen that gets mixed in. At this point, I can already have my exhaust fan off. It's okay. Brown bottles are not necessary really, because most of these things are going to live in the dark. I'm not going to leave the lights on 24 hours. And when I am in here, it's typically in a safe light. Even so, they're probably going to be in a cabinet. So brown bottle, not all that necessary. I do like glass though, because it's less permeable to air. And then for the lids, I like to get these with the little cone inside to take up as much air as possible out of the neck and get a good seal. So now I'll label this Part A PMK and the date, and I can add that to the Part B that I've already got put away. That is mixing chemicals. So whether you're going from a liquid concentrate, a bagged prepackaged powder to make a stock solution, or you've decided to mix your own, you can do either. Just make sure you have the proper tools. You want a large mixing container for powders. You want small measuring devices or graduates for liquid concentrate. And then you're going to need a scale and some coffee filters to mix from bulk chemicals. All of those things will make your life easier. Don't forget to wear gloves so you don't build up any kind of allergy or sensitivity. Some of these will absorb through the skin. You don't want that. Have good air ventilation, good quality water, filtered, preferably distilled if you want to go out and buy it. And then if you need to, get a respirator so that you don't inhale all these powders. Once you have all that, you should be able to mix up just about anything that you need to and start developing and printing. So good luck. Thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe.